Welcome everyone. My name is Michelle Colarelli and I am the instructional designer and faculty lead for the CU Center for Interprofessional Practice and Education. You're here today in a workshop called Adapt, Pivot, Straddle, Stretch, Teach. And I'm going to let my co-facilitator introduce herself, Dr. Madagoski.
Hi, I'm Wendy and delighted to be here along with Michelle. I'm a family physician and have been working with Michelle in the Interprofessional Education department, our center on campus. And I think we're gonna have a lot of fun together today.
Yeah, so welcome. For those of you who don't know, we serve a very large cohort of around 700 to 800 students per year. And it's a longitudinal program, but both Dr. Madagoski and myself, we facilitate and direct and lead the foundational courses. And we've learned a lot since it began in 2014 and are just here to kind of show how much we've had to adapt and pivot and straddle, stretch, and teach, and give kind of an overview of a new course design model called the hybrid flexible course design. So it really came to the surface during the pandemic that we were designing to all learning environments at once. We started out with an in-person course that began in 2014, and we always had an online sister course for that time. And then we've kind of adapted and moved into a hybrid schedule and a hybrid model with the blended learning. And during the pandemic, needed to go remote very quickly. And we are always struggling with the number of stakeholders that we have, that we're trying to always find a system or a pedagogy that fits one size. And as you all probably know, one size often fits none instead of all. So that's part of why we were leaning towards this HyFlex course design as well. So just take a moment and just kind of ground into the fact that we have all had a collective experience with COVID-19 that has really stretched us and pushed us in a variety of different directions. I want to take a moment and just kind of recognize how far we've come and the fact that we still need to be resilient and adaptable and able to pivot. The learning objectives today are that after this session, you'll be able to cite the HyFlex course design principles. You'll be able to identify where you need to adapt and stretch course design to better meet the needs of faculty and learners given the pandemic, and that you're going to be able to practice designing to different learning environments to achieve the course outcomes using this HyFlex model. So we're going to start with some polling, and that'll be launched here in a moment. There we go. So if you don't mind just answering each of these. Just want to get an idea of who's in the room, how you already design your courses, if you're working with hybrid models already, or if you're pretty much sticking with online or remote. Even in person, we still see quite a bit of that.
It looks like we've got maybe about 8 or 10 more people that are going to be finishing the poll. So we'll give it just another minute or so.
All right.
Go ahead and end the poll so we can look at the results here together. All right, Michelle, you've got that in view now?
I do. Can you guys see this on the screen? Is it on your screen, Wendy?
Yep.
I mean, participants can see it?
Yep.
Great.
All right, thanks, David. So just going over the results here a little bit, want to note for each of the question what our majorities are. So it looks like in terms of the modality that our participants are mostly designing to is online, but also hybrid. And then in terms of sessions and how they are scheduled, the majority here is asynchronous, but some hybrid and some synchronous. If we scroll down a bit more in terms of learners having choice regarding which modality they would participate in, the majority said no. Only a few are saying yes. And in terms of HyFlex course design, though, we have a few more participants who have heard of this and than not, but the majority are not using that currently as a model and a design. So this is perfect. I think it means that we're on the right track here in terms of sharing our experience with this, as well as giving each of us a chance to explore this model a bit more today.
Great. So what is HyFlex course design? The HyFlex course design has an excellent open educational resource. So I really want to turn people onto this. There's a great ed tech book, and you're able to, sorry, I thought it was going to share while this loaded, but it's not going to. Basically, there's a really great resource. It will be in our citations, and if you click on the resources, it's really outlined really well, has great resources in terms of worksheets, etc. But the main component of a HyFlex course design is that it's going to be student-directed, multimodal learning experience, and that it enables the flexible participation policy for students. And it really means for all students that they can choose on any given day. It could be by week, by topic, by day, etc., that they're going to show up either in person, remotely, or participate asynchronously. So there's 4 primary principles or values of this model. And the first is learner choice principle. And this means that you're going to provide meaningful alternative participation modes. And it's going to enable students to really choose between their participation, as I just mentioned. It also is assuring equivalency. So all the learning activities and all participation modes need to have equivalent learning outcomes. So for most of us designing, sometimes, it can be a real task to try to get the online version to match what would be in the face-to-face version. And so we're always trying to kind of tweak those learning outcomes so you can get the same out of each experience. And then the reusability principle. This is where you're going to really utilize artifacts from all the activities, and that they are available to all students. So a good example of this is basically, we actually provide all the same learning materials as far as pre-work. So all students have access to that pre-work, and then they move on to team discussions and then a classroom discussion. And for those asynchronous people that can't show up to the remote session, whether that's via Zoom or in person, we want them to still engage in that classroom experience. And so we carry forward some artifacts for them to review, and we'll kind of go over that with our experiences later in the workshop with Padlet. The other thing is about accessibility. You always want to be able to equip your students with the technology skills and equitable access to all the modes. So you want them to be able to obviously start and get familiar with the tools before jumping in and assuring that it can also meet the needs of accessibility and universal design, etc. So designing a hybrid flexible course, there's many steps that you need to do just in order to ensure that you can actually do it. So again, these worksheets will be in that open educational resource. And you want to be able to assess the opportunities, the benefits and the challenges to begin. Is it even a worthy model for you to move to? And then you want to analyze and confirm or modify your learning outcomes to meet all of these requirements. You want to plan the student learning activities, both the content and the interaction. You want to prepare to assess those learning outcomes and evaluate the return on those expectations. So it's an iterative process. At IPE, we have done nothing but adapt, pivot, straddle, stretch, and teach over all these years. And I just want to kind of point out that we started with paper handouts in live in-person classrooms. And we even started with only handing out 2 basically participant guides that would give an outline of the day, the session activities, to a team of 7 to 7 students. And so the goal then was that they would all have to read off these documents, listen, communicate well, etc. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we had an online course that was really catering to the people that could not show up in terms of clinical conflicts. And those that, met a certain threshold, we knew they couldn't participate in all the sessions we had. And so we had this online course running. But in the beginning, the equivalency was really questionable. Were they having the same experience? There's only 2 programs, which was College of Nursing and the School of Pharmacy in that course, whereas in the face-to-face program, we had all 7 healthcare professions. Over the years, we started becoming more well-versed at Canvas and actually engaging students in that process through Canvas as our learning management system. There was more of a blended learning, pre-work was available, activities were available, etc. Instead of Canvas just being like a repository of documents. I think it was around 2017, we actually started inviting students to bring their own device, and then students were actually following along in the activities. Then we moved forward into online quizzing features in the classroom, so they actually had to have a device to do that. And then meanwhile, the sister course, the online course, kept adapting and was really, we opened it up to more volunteer students, more programs joining, etc. And then we started our hybrid schedules and really began changing the way we actually facilitated in person. Instead of all 8 sessions being live and in person, we dropped it down to 7 sessions, and then we went to 4 that were in person and 3 that were online and asynchronous, etc. Along all of these iterations, we want to point out that the online students were often asking for more synchronous sessions or synchronous opportunities. And during our asynchronous weeks, the in-person teams were asking to meet synchronously and still get their work done together. We just were not facilitating it live in the classroom like we were previously. Once we hit the pandemic, we actually were able to merge our courses and create just one remote experience that integrated all the students, all the teaming, all of these lessons that we've learned. So now we've been in that face-to-face remote kind of modality, and we've recognized that a cohort of our students, those that would have normally been asynchronous and online all of the time, we're requesting that they have the flexibility to join in session if they're able to. And that's what really led us to this HyFlex model. So now we just want to know where you need to adapt and stretch your own course designs to kind of meet the needs of faculty and learners given the pandemic. So Dr. Madagoski is going to post this into the chat. And if you don't mind just adding how you're adapting and stretching.
I would say take a couple of minutes thinking about this. A lot of times we have really quick chat responses, but we want this to have you reflect upon what you are doing and how you might be needing to change moving forward, because then we want to use these same ideas in our activity that will come next.
Mhm. Yeah, so we just saw a post in the chat. How do you get students to turn cameras on? Can be a real challenge. We honestly try to set the tone that we do expect it. Our course is about team engagement, and we want them to feel like they can engage in that regard. But we also, want to honor the fact that sometimes people can't, depending on the environment they're in, etc. And so we want to give some grace, and I always just tell students, to chat with me privately using the Zoom chat and let me know why they can't turn it on. Great. Yeah, so it could be a real challenge to ensure that the online and in-class students are engaging with one another. We had to really hone in on some team discussion boards, and we ask our asynchronous participants to basically participate prior to the session as well as after the session. And so we set it up in a way that they can look ahead, they can contribute to collaborative documents and kind of team products before the session even happens. And then we expect the team during the session to integrate their feedback, their contributions, et cetera, before submitting something. And then after the session, we have those, what we're now deeming flex students, go in, review the products, review the classroom, report outs, et cetera, and reflect on that and comment on that. Yes.
So I'm seeing some ideas come in here about how to handle resources in many different settings, in on-site, perhaps in the classroom versus at home. Some questions about effort and time to create choice and equivalency across multiple settings. And then also the tools that we would want to use to be able to engage students and to ensure that students that are online and in class are connecting together. So lots of good ideas there. I really want to invite everybody to put your ideas in here. We have another couple minutes for you to be brainstorming about what you need to be doing. And then you'll be working in some breakout rooms together to select a topic to work through using the HyFlex design model. So get your ideas out into the chat, some juices flowing on this. We'll give you another minute or two.
I also wanted to just touch on the fact that some people feel like it would be like teaching two courses, and it truly is a lot of effort in the beginning to create these multiple modalities. But coming from our experiences where we really truly did have two courses, and the manpower was really limited administratively to manage those two, we actually kind of found a sweet spot in merging the two courses and being able to create some activities that can be met in all these formats in just one course. So I feel your concern. It is a little painful in the beginning, but as I kind of mentioned, it's reduced a lot of our pain points by not having the two courses. And I think it also just takes some time in the HyFlex course design model and the papers that you would have available to you through that resource. there's a lot of different, programs doing different things. And so some people really design different activities. And we've kind of hit a spot where we keep the same activity. We're just designing platforms for them all to engage with and be able to kind of close the loop on it. And I do want to also make the point that we have not returned to in-person yet. So it's been a lot easier for us to do this on the remote level and engage through Canvas and Zoom. And then now we're introducing Padlet, which you'll soon see as an option. But there are, some designs where you are in person, you're filming it. It does need a lot of tech support. And basically you are running live while you're being filmed in the classroom, and those joining remotely would be watching the video version, kind of like Panopto style. And so it can get really complex, and you would need some IT support for that.
All right, Michelle, I think we're at our time where we want to transition into the activity.
Excellent. So we are going to go to breakout rooms, and Dr. Madagasky is going to post in the chat the links to those rooms, and it's going to take you to Padlet. And basically Padlet is a really great forum or platform to just kind of get to do some collaborative work, as well as to post the report outs. And for me, who is a very visual learner, it really helps me keep on track as a faculty and as a student. I'm going to see here if it will go. I'm going to actually just share real quick what it looks like. And it just seems to be having a hard time loading right now. So we'll see if this works or not. There we go. So once you click on it, you should be able to see your breakout rooms, and we'll send you there soon. But basically, you're going to choose a scribe and somebody who's going to post cards for your team or your group. And this is an example here, but we want you to just answer the prompts that are in this card over here under the instructions. And we've posted a link to the hybrid flexible design as a resource if you need it, but we're hoping that our prompts just help you guide what we were expecting on the card itself. So carrying forward what you just typed in the chat, choose one adaptation that you are trying to create in kind of this HyFlex model, and just walk through these prompts, these questions. How could you design it in a way that is learner choice, equivalency, reusability, and accessibility. And then we're gonna, pick a spokesperson as well when we come back to the main room to discuss. But really think about what is challenging, take note of any benefits or challenges you can see in this framework, and we'll have a discussion once we end the breakout rooms.
Okay, and I think I have all the breakout rooms ready now. You're going to be in groups of 3 to 4, which will give you enough time to talk about your specific issues that you would like to work on and select one. You'll have about, let's see, we're right on time. So you'll have 15 minutes to do this work together. And then we're going to do a quick report out at the end. I think that will allow us to get a sense from each of you about what you want to take away and try, as well as reflections on the HyFlex model and some of the challenges and opportunities it provides. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and open the rooms. There'll be a 1-minute reminder, and then we'll pull you back in. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to use the raise a hand feature and we will come and join you. And then we're also probably just going to drop into a couple of the rooms just to hear where the questions are and see if we can assist you in any way. So, all right, so we'll see you back around 3:40. Hey, I couldn't remove you. So I figured you'd be able to come back.
Hey, I was like, should I speak? Should I not?
All right. Just to let you know, I had put the time in for the 15 minutes, and then, now we're a couple minutes past that. So
Sure.
we won't have quite as much time for the report out. But if people are done, they can certainly come back earlier, but I have a feeling they might not come back until they get pulled back.
Right.
And everyone should be able to see the Padlets since I put them in the chat. That should remain, but I think we could probably pop in and check to make sure that they are oriented. Somebody's unassigned. Let me take care of that. Wonder if I should pause the recording right now. Do you think that's okay?
I wouldn't.
Just let it go.
Yeah, I think they have it all set up.
We lost a bunch of people.
I was wondering, or if they had been jumped into the breakout rooms, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to reassign them, but room 8 has only 2 now. Room 4, 2, room 3, 2, room 2, 2. So
Okay.
I had done it more, and then as I mentioned, breakout rooms, all of a sudden it went from 50 participants down to 40.
I saw that. I was like, wait, are they already going or are they dropping? Don't want to do the work. I've been there. Don't worry.
All right, do you want to maybe check in to rooms 1, 2, 3, and I'll start at the bottom just to see if they need any help or questions around Padlet?
Sure.
Okay.
Hello, Aziz. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Hi, hello.
Did you jump in to make or to have a question?
Oh, no, I had like a big pause between previous session and this one. I just was traveling from work to home
Oh, great.
and just joined for this interesting session. I think I'm too late, right?
Yeah, they're
yeah.
in breakout rooms right now. If you want to stay on, it's no problem. And you could hear kind of the wrap up, but
Right.
basically they're all working in their breakout rooms.
Oh, I see. Okay, maybe I will stay a little bit. And also I'm glad that we have this opportunity to watch the recording. That's great.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Hello, Amelia, can you hear me?
Sorry.
You are muted. Just so you guys know, I am jumping around from room to room just to assure there's no issue. So I'm going to leave for a moment.
All right.
Is anybody in the first Padlet getting to some specifics?
No, everybody's a little confused.
Yeah, I think we needed to orient them to Padlet a bit more, and that you scroll through it and then like show them how to do it because they got stuck. So there's one group, room 6, that actually has some answers.
Right.
We could use. But let me see if I can pull to Padlet 1 through 5 to see. And it looks like in rooms 1 through 5, there was a question about reusability, and then breakout room 4 had a couple of options here. So maybe we ask 4 and 6 to share a little bit.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to close the rooms, have them come back.
Great.
It's only 10 seconds, so they'll be right here. Do you want me to sort of acknowledge the
Yeah.
Hi, welcome back, everybody. It's okay to see your videos. I'm all right. We're going to have a bit of a discussion, so we'd love to see your faces at this point. All right, welcome back, people. Feel free to keep your videos on at this point. We'd like to see your faces as we're doing a last little bit of discussion. Let's see. I think other people. Not sure why other people aren't back from the breakout rooms, but I think we should probably just go ahead with our last bit of the conversation here. So first, I just want to acknowledge that, thank you for trying out Padlet. We didn't spend any time sort of orienting you to it. So I know there was probably a learning curve there and just getting familiar with how to add a comment and also to where the instructions were. So thank you for trying that out. And then I just want to invite breakout rooms 6 and 4 to just provide a little bit of commentary on what they discussed as we wrap things up here. So if anybody from either of those groups, that would be great. I can share my screen here to kind of show the Padlets.
This is Joy. I can start. We're from 6.
Thank you. Let's go. We get to 6 here.
So we didn't know if we were following the instructions, but one of our big questions was, how do you really in the HyFlex or situation, how do you answer student questions both in person and online at the same time? Just managing the chat. I haven't done HyFlex, but just managing the chat when I'm doing like synchronous Zoom class meetings is really hard. And so I think that kind of led us to thinking about how can students be engaged in the whole experience. So maybe somebody monitors the chat, maybe they respond to some of the questions if they can, or they let everyone know that there is a question so we can respond to it. Maybe someone's in charge of recording important discussion points and ideas. They could use Padlet. I've used Miro board, anything that kind of helps, just the whiteboard in Zoom or in WebEx. Also talked about, maybe they prepare a topic for the day. And that's how you're engaging people, and then they're answering questions and being involved. Somebody had gone to a session this earlier today that said that they were giving students extra points for initiating weekly discussions and making those more engaging rather than just having some kind of preset discussion question. And then maybe some technology, like just being creative about how to work together, with some people online remotely and some people in the classroom. For me, a lot of times, and maybe it wouldn't be as big a deal if you had all the equipment, is, can they see, am I drawing on the board? Can the people at home see what I'm drawing? Or, if I'm showing something on the screen, hopefully I have a presentation board in the classroom. So, maybe it's videos that we're watching all together or something, things that we can do together. I mean, that's one thing I thought of, as Netflix and Hulu and a lot of those now have it set up so you can like stream things at the same time. So if you found, or probably you can do that with YouTube too, maybe, but those types of things where it's synchronized, I think would be really helpful. So that's it.
Thank you, Joy. All right, and then how about breakout room 4? Any comments about that?
Yeah, I was in breakout room 4, and there was 2 of us, and it was kind of difficult because one was an instructor and I was actually teaching at an elementary school while getting my undergrad. So we were fully in person, but when we did go online, it was awful because most of them can't read or type. So it was just a real challenge, but mostly we're focusing on like asynchronous work, but then we kind of like went into how can we produce like great results by holding the same expectations. And a lot of that tended to land within making sure things were accessible, but also providing learners choice. And both of those things require a lot of work on the back end for an individual teacher. And so, like someone said earlier, you do need a tech person, and you just need to like have access to the resources, but also ensuring that the students know that they have access and know how to use it.
That's absolutely an important part of actually the values of accessibility for the students, that they need to be instructed on how to use whatever technology is helping to enable that choice. So I'm going to stop sharing and then ask Michelle to wrap us up for the last couple minutes.
Yeah, so as you can tell, it is challenging in the beginning. There's a lot of things you're juggling in order to even move in this direction. Everybody has just made some excellent points that, you know, it's hard to manage all these devices, all these people, all these platforms at once. In our course, we have co-facilitators. So part of our benefit is that we have somebody that's designated to the chat, etc. But we've also, when we've had to run solo, have designated a single student and volunteer to assist with us. And it's amazing how often you have some tech wizards in your course. And so sometimes they can help out with the video, etc. So don't be shy in asking student engagement in that or assistance. But you know, we would love to just, you know, our goal really was to introduce this because it was new to me to even hear the term HyFlex course design. And, you know, all aspects of it might not be able to meet your needs. But I do really highly recommend checking out those resources. There's some excellent videos that even show how you would facilitate live while people are joining in. And the videos I watched, they were really graceful and just, you know, have times for question and answers and really, you know, navigate it by saying, I'm going to now turn to the remote learners. I'm going to see if there's anything in the chat. I'm going to now turn my attentions back to the class. Obviously, if you're drawing on a whiteboard, you know, that would need to be captured in the video if possible, or you might have to have that the video is running through Zoom and you're using the Zoom whiteboard. But again, it's juggling and balancing lots of platforms, lots of student needs, classroom engagement, etc. So any questions, any comments, any great takeaways from this session? We'd love to hear it.
I'm going to add something real quick, Michelle, which is this. I think it's okay to start small with little pieces and to give choices or work on accessibility or reusability. I think the values are really what's most important about this model. Michelle and I, even just in thinking about this presentation, it helped us to realize that our students were actually asking for much of this over the past 5 to 10 years. And we were accommodating some things, but didn't realize that actually could be part of our educational design and that would be a good thing. So yeah, that's what I would want to leave you all with. It's okay to start small, but think about this as part of what you own rather than always just adapting to student requests. It can be a part of your design as an educator.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining. We are out of time. We're happy to hang on if anybody has questions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Michelle, I just wanted to mention that we had a couple of, or at least one request to see the slides. So if those could be posted to the drive, I think that maybe COLTT has, some of the participants would do that.
Excellent.
I have a quick question. I'm not a course instructor. I'm a library instructor at University of Colorado, Denver. As a consequence, I don't teach the way that most of the folks I'm guessing that we're here today teach. I see my students for 90 minutes and then I never see them again. What I am, or at least generally, I never see them again. I was just here today to watch and learn and see if I could glean something from this discussion that would be applicable to what I do.
Yeah.
And I have picked up some very interesting things, but I wondered if there were any suggestions that either of you might have given the kind of teaching that I do.
Can I ask, when you teach them for 90 minutes and then that's that, is that in a live format, face-to-face, you know, except for pandemic times?
Generally, yes, it was very rare prior to March 2020 that we actually did anything online. Now, since that time, just about everything I've done has not only been online, but asynchronous. I'm anticipating, and I could be wrong here, but I'm anticipating probably doing a lot more synchronous online instruction, not only this semester, but in following semesters. And I did it twice during the pandemic year. And it was, I always give my students a quiz afterward to see what it was they learned during the session. And overall, the responses were fairly positive in terms of what they had been able to learn. But, you know, I'm sitting there looking at this screen of black boxes with names in them and the occasional avatar of a donkey or whatever it is that they happen to put up there. And I really cannot read the room.
Yeah.
Also, every attempt that I've made to engage them in conversation or to get them to respond to various questions during the session have not gone especially well. So I'm just trying to figure out a way to, for want of a better term, to freshen this up a bit, to get it, to get everybody a little more engaged. Now, admittedly, everybody was shell shocked during the pandemic year and kind of running on autopilot. Maybe that was part of the problem, but I really would like to do better than I've done so far.
Yeah, excellent. Unfortunately, because I take it it's an elective, like they just have, you know, it's something that you're basically an expert at, you're putting it out there. How many people join? How many students join?
Generally, the way that we do it at my library is the course instructor decides that the class will engage in this.
Okay.
And it's one class session for them that they have devoted to library instruction.
Right.
So the students aren't actually, they haven't decided to be there. They've been told to be there.
Yeah, that's a real struggle. And I was going to say, we lean on our syllabus and, you know, we have certain expectations for participation and engagement and et cetera. So we have something to fall back on because there's a grade. But to be that one off, it has been a real struggle with this remote learning, because even in this remote conference, I highly doubt everyone who first joined this session was prepared to really engage and work on it. And in fact, we lost half our class once we went into the breakout rooms because they were like, oh, I have to turn my camera on or talk, right? And that's the reality, is that they're usually doing something else while they got one ear on that one topic that's not really what they, you know, they have to be there, but they're not necessarily engaging in. So for me, I'm always about rules of engagement. Like, this is, you know, what I expect. You might want to tie in with the course instructor and say, can we give a grade on this? Is there some meat we can we can put a flag in this, something that will give it some value and merit.
We're going to have to wrap up because they need to transition to the next session, but I'll just quickly add that I think, you know, some techniques of just online engagement are probably what could be useful, you know, and I think I've always not been so ready for gamification and things like that, but I do think that there's new ways of connecting through technology that our learners are going to want to use, and they will more likely rate something or respond to something than necessarily, you know, appear on camera and have a discussion. So it's probably time for us to think about, are there other techniques that can be used throughout the session to engage them in ways that they're perhaps more apt to enjoy. So
Thank you both very much. It was a great session today. I really enjoyed it and learned a lot from it. Thank you.
thank you. Good luck.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.